going on, guys? My name is Chase, and welcome back to Intelligent Money Investing. Today, I've got something a little bit different for you guys, and it's going to be how someone very close to my family is making $15,000 a month with zero risk and zero work. Now, this isn't something that you can do right off the bat, and it is going to take some capital to get into, but it's definitely a kind of a mindset thing and kind of a anecdotal evidence of what can happen if you do save up your money and you do kind of put your money towards investments that are going to kind of help you in the future, because this guy's making $180,000 a year just off of this one property, and he could make so much more with that money, and he could honestly retire right now off of that. But he has a lot more going on for him, and I'm going to share all that with you guys today. So, but before we get into that, I want to ask you guys to please drop a like on this video if you enjoy it. This is kind of a different thing for this channel, so let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you want me to do more stuff like this. Okay. So let's get into this. I do have some notes over here, and then this is actually the building on the left side that I'm going to reference kind of throughout the video. So for this, he owns a commercial building that's used by a towing company. That's it. It's a $15,000 a month rental in a triple net lease structure. So essentially the way it's structured is that at this point it's $15,000 a month, and it's a long-term lease with annual rent raises. So he doesn't have to worry about re-signing tenants. He doesn't have to worry about vacancy for many years. And if he does, we're going to get back to that at the end of the video or later in the video, because that is where some of that risk factor comes in. What happens if the tenant defaults? What happens if the tenant needs to move out, or they terminate their lease and you can't get somebody else to move in? We're going to get into all that. So, you guys notice I put no work up here, and this is how he does the no work structure. So if you haven't heard of a triple net lease structure for a lease, that's essentially when whatever business is operating in the building, renting, leasing that property, has to take care of the rent. On top of the rent, it has to take care of like basically general upkeep of the building. It has to take care of like of upkeep, taxes, like utilities, everything like that, every day-to-day expense, all the operating expenses of the business, essentially. If it needs a new roof, that is going to be a capital expense that the owner would have to take care of, but everything day-to-day doesn't have to be worried about. If there's a plumbing issue, the business has to fix it. Anything like that, all covered by the actual leaser operated by the tenant, which is a great structure to be in because he doesn't have to worry about this building at all during the year. He probably has to worry about it every few years when it's time for that lease to get renewed. And so far, this is the only tenant he's had in the 15 years of owning this building. So, how is there no risk? Well, if you guys can see here, there's two right here. There's the map. Here is the towing business here on this big lot here, and then he owns and operates the business next door. That's his main source of income. That's his main day job. So with that business has been kind of expanding over the years, and they're kind of squeezed for space over there. So if he wanted to, he could expand over into that next building and use that space if the towing company has to move out or can't make their rent payments. He can go in, use that space, and have absolutely no downside, because he could probably make more than that 15 grand a month if he operated that space by himself. It's just a lot more hassle, and as of now, he's kind of getting by just with that building that he has right now. So if he can replace that rent revenue with his own business revenue, then absolutely no issue. There's no risk because he can do it. He can do it himself. Obviously, there's a risk that he fails, but if he's completely confident and he's able to do that with his business, then you don't have much of a downside. You own and you operate that building, and then you own it, you don't operate it, and then you can operate it if you need to if those rent checks aren't coming in. Another instance that I read about was this person. He actually was in asset-backed securities. So he basically had a note on a business that ended up going bankrupt in the recession, and instead of trying to sell off this business that he got just by default because the business went bankrupt, they couldn't pay back the loan. So he, as an individual, like inherited this business because he owned the debt on the building. And then he was able to use that. He thought he was going to lose a ton of money on it, but instead he was able to own and operate that business and kind of did something that was completely out of his realm of expertise and run that business successfully and end up making a killing on it. But it was a scary thing for a little bit because he didn't actually know what he was doing when he stepped in. But if you know how to operate the business, then you're able to kind of make a profit when you end up falling into a bad situation where a tenant has to move out, or you end up having somebody default on their debt. Basically, when something goes wrong and you end up in a situation where you need to take over either a business, a building, anything like that when you're taking over debt, if that makes sense. I'm happy to answer any questions about this in the comments down below. But right now, we're going to talk about how this might apply to you on like a day-to-day basis or in your investing future. So how can this benefit you? So there's just a certain mindset of protecting your downside for risk if everything goes wrong. A lot of people are into high risk, high reward investments these days, and with a high market things are actually more risky the higher prices get. People, a lot of other times, people think, oh, it's been going up for the last couple of years, it must keep going up because that's the trajectory it's been on. But actually, a lot of the times, if the all else equal, like obviously there's a lot of confounding variables in this, but all else equal, if you're buying in at a lower price, there's a lot more potential to go up than if you're buying in at a higher price than expecting the value to go higher. So just another anecdotal example. Maybe you have a 2-bedroom condo and you rent out a room, and then your friend, your tenant ends up moving out, and you're like, oh no, I now have to take up their share of the rent and my mortgage payment or my rent payment, something like that, and you don't know what to do. Well, maybe you want to multi-purpose that and decide, okay, this is going to be my new home office in this 2nd bedroom, and I'm going to start up a side gig, maybe a YouTube channel, and get some revenue off of that and have that make up for the rent checks that you would be getting, and maybe even pay for the whole house eventually, pay for the whole apartment eventually. So that's just a kind of anecdotal thing that I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this type of video. I know I'm not exactly great at explaining the real estate side of things. I'm kind of newer to that, but if you guys found this interesting, please leave a like and comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.